You're listening to the Grow Landscapers podcast, the podcast where we delve deeper into landscape business, interviewing legends of the UK landscaping industry. So, join host Nick Ruddle as he explores their thoughts, insights and experiences. That's here on the Grow Landscapers podcast.
Hi and welcome to the Grow Landscapers podcast. I'm Nick Ruddle and today we're joined by Jonathan Bourne from Bourne Amenity. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Very, very excited about the next half an hour or so.
Oh, and so you should be. So, well, thanks. Welcome to the show. Bourne Amenity, been going for over 70 years. Is that right?
The group of there's a group of four companies that have been in existence since 1947. Bourne Amenity is a part of that. It's been around for about 25 years. Sort of all evolved from an agricultural standpoint for John Bourne and Company, and Bourne Amenity evolved into where we are now, which is obviously horticultural products and sports turf products. So the whole group's been around for a long while, 75 years this year, but Bourne Amenity sort of more like 25 years.
Wow. So still very well established. So how long have you personally been in the business?
I joined 2011, just before the Olympic project. So yeah, I've been here for about 11, just going on 11 years. So yeah, I'm in terms of the business and the people that work here, I'm pretty new actually. We keep hold of a lot of our staff. So there's a lot of people that have known me when I was sort of a 10, 11-year-old running around the offices. So yeah, I'm pretty new to it, to be fair. Brilliant.
So just what did you do before then? Because obviously you've had some kind of work experience before you joined.
Yeah. I'm related completely. I went from studying an economics degree at university into London, really, to try and apply my trade there. And I worked in marketing for Adidas for 4 or 5 years before I got the call from the family, the father. Sounds very much like the Godfather type, but he sort of tickled my interest, and I came down from the big smoke to get involved in the family business.
So that was one of my next questions, really, in terms of what made you join the business. Maybe it should be who made you join the business. Come on, son, we need your help.
I mean, a family business is, you tend to think it just gets handed down from generation to generation, and I think that is the common trait. And I think my father never. He never, I don't think he ever saw me working in the business until I came down for a summer and worked in one of our quarries for a bit. And sort of, I didn't really know what the business did when I was at university, and, I knew it was involved in agriculture, but I think my father sort of, took me under his wing a bit and showed me how it worked, and then sort of instilled in me that family ethos and the fact that you're a custodian of the business, and to pass it down to the next generation is kind of what you're aiming to do as a family as you go on, because that maintains the legacy. So it was very much my father, just giving me a reminder of the family legacy and making sure that I was ready for it.
Yeah, well, I think it's good though, isn't it? It's good to get experience outside of the family business, because you've been in marketing for Adidas. I mean, great brand. Great sort of area to get involved with, and I presume that a lot of the things you learned there, you can sort of repurpose, if you like, and use and adapt to what you do now, the strategy side of things.
I mean, the market, we didn't have much of a marketing. I mean, we used to go to a lot of trade shows. We sort of had our, a few local advertisements, that kind of thing, but we didn't really have any marketing going on within the business at all. So having that background and understanding the importance of sort of social media, and I mean, it wasn't the emergence of the internet. The internet emerged a long time before, but in terms of our industry, we're a little bit probably behind the curve and that kind of thing. So getting the website right and making sure we were all on point and changing the logos, getting the branding right, was a big important step that I brought into it. So yeah, from that point of view, I knew nothing really about the practical side of it, but I could definitely bring in some marketing theory.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, that's a good place to start then. So what did the business look like when you came into the business at 2011? What did it look like in terms of, I don't know, the people, the sales, the marketing, you know, everything?
Yeah.
So what did you walk into at the time?
I walked into a quite a traditional business that was ingrained in the local community. We used to deal a lot with farmers. We used to supply a lot of lime, a lot of compost to local farmers, and it was all quite local. We used to have reps out on the road that used to sell various things from grass seed to topsoil and it was very much, you know, we were part of the local community, and we looked after. We knew all the farmers. We put on clay pigeon shoots and that kind of thing, and it was, you know, we'd been doing it when I joined, we'd been doing it for 60 odd years. So we had that sewn up, and we were very well established, and the people that work here would have worked here for 20 odd years. So it was very much a local business, but ambitious. You know, my father's a very ambitious man, and he's always looking past. And he got involved with took it away from agriculture and turned it into sort of topsoil and root zones and sands, and saw the requirement for that across the southeast. So it was evolving. It wasn't just agriculture when I joined. It was already a horticultural business. But I guess I sort of what kickstarted my interest was the Olympic project, and seeing the opportunity that lay with getting involved, getting a small piece of that, which we only got a very small part of that tender, but that kind of launched us onto the scene of specified materials, and picked up my interest in the fact that we could actually do bespoke materials and become quite specialist.
So what does it look like now then? So from what you came into, fast forward 11 years, what's the state of play now?
Well, I mean, it's three times the size now in terms of turnover. There's, you know, we've gone from when I joined, it was probably 60, 70 staff. We're now at 130. We're UK wide now. I mean, 90% is in the southeast, but we're expanding every year. We're doing more and more projects outside, and we've gone down the sort of technical route. So we do a lot of testing and specialized soils and that kind of thing. So more away from the sort of standard materials into specified materials, which is where the industry and our clients are going. They want their materials to be specific for specific projects, and that's what it looks like now. It's much more technical in terms of. I remember when I joined, we have a small laboratory in our offices, and we used to do a lot of our testing in there, and pH testing with a bit of litmus paper and that kind of thing. And we had a bit of a particle size, and we used to flocculate clay, and that was fine. But nowadays, we spend a lot of money on testing, and every soil we do about 30 different soils now, whereas I joined, we did about 2 or 3. So it's evolved just in terms of our range of products and how far afield they're going.
Wow, brilliant. So kudos to you then. 3 times the turnover, from 60 to 130 people, so more than double the amount of staff, and nationwide now as well. So wow. So
it's not just me.
I wasn't going to say just you.
A lot of working cogs in the whole scheme. But we rode the tide of the Olympics and the just general focus on the environment and wanting to green urban areas and remove some of the sort of brownfield sites and get some greenery into the cities, and we're very well placed in terms of being near London in the southeast, and London is always, as usual, is the trailblazer when it comes to things like green roofs and that kind of thing. So we were lucky that we rode that wave, which kind of started at the Olympics and is now, COVID was good, I would say, for our industry in terms of putting the importance on the environment. So it's just been, I guess, more right place, right time.
Yeah. Well, you've taken advantage of it, and great opportunity. So what do you think, from your years of being in this business, what have you found to be the most important elements to help you run a successful business?
I think there's always an emphasis on the customer being right, which I don't think is necessarily true. It's more the fact of the staff we have here are extremely dedicated and extremely hardworking and very, very loyal. It is a family business, and it's very much a family with the staff. So respect and communication between the staff members, keeping them happy, listening to them, leading by example, and not asking people to do things you wouldn't. All those sort of standard, sort of cliched things about staff. If the staff are well looked after, then they'll look after the client. So we very much make it a family business in terms of the people here are treated like family, from the guys in the yard to the directors, everyone's sort of on a same keel, and there's a lot of respect there. And I think that without that, we'd really struggle, because you've got a lot of personalities in one place, and especially with the world as it is, everyone's got a lot of stress, strains, and problems. And I think if they come to work and they feel that they're being listened to, then it just makes a much more relaxed environment where people can really get down to it. And if the work ethic's good, then that filters down through everyone. So yeah, I guess keeping the staff happy is what I would say is the real key element.
Yeah, it's a real common theme throughout a lot of these episodes on this podcast. The genuine care, the sincere care for your staff, and if you do look after them and they genuinely know that you care, then they're going to respect you. They're going to want to work for you. They want to work for the client. Yeah. And I think it can't be underestimated.
Well, as I said to you before we came on the podcast, about another important thing I think is also the communication we have within the industry, and making as I said before, I'm on very good terms with most of my competition. I see them regularly. We chat. We compete ferociously, but in general, we get on. And I think it's an important mantra never to burn any bridges with anyone, no matter what you might think might have happened. There's always two sides to a story, and you'll always need each other at some point. So I like that people might disagree when they hear me say this, but I am on good terms with pretty much everyone. I haven't really had any major fallings out. And if there is a falling out, then you get over it. But not burning bridges, I'd say, is also a really important aspect of running a successful business.
Definitely, and in life in general as well.
Yeah,
I think you just
never know when it's going to come back. Yeah.
Well, we call we've made a word up at Action Coach called co-opetition. So you're cooperating, but you're in competition with your competition.
Yeah.
So co-opetition.
It's a horrible word, but I understand.
It's horrible, yeah. But
I massively agree with that. And in our industry, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of business going on, and you will lose out occasionally, but there's a lot to go around. And I think if you work, we have our competitors that recommend us for certain projects, or say, listen, Bourne Amenity are probably better placed for this, and we do that thing vice versa to people that on the next week might be taking work off us. So if that what goes around comes around. So if you act like that, then it tends to do you well as a business. That doesn't bite you on the arse. But if you do the opposite and start bad mouthing other people or competitors, then people don't like that. No one likes to hear that, and I think you'll learn very quickly that's not the way to operate.
Yeah, there's enough to go around, and as before, we came on the podcast. It's very abundant. There's a lot of abundancy in this industry compared to a lot of other industries. There's genuine friendships there, and they're quite open and honest with how they share ideas. And yes, you're in competition, but there is enough for everyone to go around. And I think people do understand that in the landscape industry. It's a nice place to operate in. Okay, very good. So any other elements you think of in terms of running a business? Before we get on to the next section?
I think I was thinking about it. I was thinking not taking things too personally, not reacting too hard about things, and maybe sleeping on problems, and not kind of being too kind of reactive and short-termist. Look at the bigger picture. I guess that kind of boils down to not burning bridges. But I think I'm now almost 40, and I think when I first started, when I was in my late 20s, I was very hungry, and I wanted to take all the work, and if I didn't get something, I wanted to know why. And I just had that sort of naivety that everything, why shouldn't it come to us? But when in fact that if you actually think about it, and you're a bit more kind of considered, then you understand that things don't always work out, and if you react badly, then people remember that. But if we've just lost a pretty big job, and I was pretty like, well, we should have had that. But in fact, if you congratulate the victor and move on, then there's always the next job to come. And I had a tendency, I think, to focus on the jobs I wasn't winning rather than looking at the amazing projects we do work on.
Yeah.
And sort of fixating on why I've won them rather than why we have won them. And so that just comes, I guess, with growing up a little bit,
Yeah, taking the emotion out of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really? And there is enough, and there's something else that will come along. And sometimes you think, well, that happened for a reason. We didn't win that for a reason.
Yeah.
Couldn't have taken this up.
Yeah. And it's not a personal thing, it's not, as long as you're sure in what you're doing, you're convinced in what you're doing, you've got that kind of, single mindset, then it'll happen for you. These setbacks are all part of it.
Absolutely. And talking about setbacks, that leads us perfectly into my next question. What might have what biggest mistakes have you made, or what are the biggest lessons that you've learned then in your time at Bourne Amenity?
I've learned a few, to be fair. As I said, I came in quite gun-ho. I think the most important thing is listening to people, especially people that have been in the industry a long time.
Yeah.
I'm quite I was one of those people that was just waiting for my turn to speak, sort of thing. Whereas I've learned that everyone's got something you can absorb and use at a later date. And if you sit back and just don't talk, if you don't just wait for your turn to speak and you can sit there and absorb what's going on, then you can gain so much more than just waiting, as I say, waiting for your turn to speak. So that's a major lesson that I've learned. Because, like someone like my father who's been in it for so long, I always thought, well, what does he know? But in fact, he knows quite a lot, and he will always know quite a lot. And it's, it's just that maturity, I guess.
Yeah, you get over that naivety.
Yeah.
But there's a great author, Australian chap called Alan Pease. Some people might have heard of him.
Right.
I remember him saying, "You got two ears and one mouth for a reason."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think
there's a lot to be said about that. So listening.
Yeah, I think there's also a lot to be said about being the quiet one. I'm quite loud and quite sort of, I like people to know I'm around, but I think I can learn a bit by just sitting back, absorbing what's going on around you, and keeping your powder dry, so to speak, and not necessarily letting people know exactly what's going on in your mind, and being very considered, and being that guy who's sort of sitting there absorbing it all and making up minds in his head, rather than having that sort of verbal diarrhea that some people seem to have.
Yeah, I think sometimes you've got to learn how to sort of zip it and just listen and listen.
Yeah,
try not to jump in. I think it's something you learn the older you get. Very good. So has there been any major challenges or massive obstacles that you've had in the past? And if so, what did you do? What was the outcome?
Yeah, I'm relatively fresh with this. So I'm, touch wood, I'm lucky. We haven't had any massive, we've had, the setbacks that come with a business and losing key members of staff, but we tend to retain staff quite well, and losing out on projects, and but in general, it sounds like like a recipe for the quiet before the storm. But as far as I'm concerned, so far it's been so good. So I'm just sort of waiting for, we've had a lot thrown at us, but we've got a resilient business that relies on a good customer base and relies heavily on communication and making sure that our staff are well looked after. And I think when that happens, like something like COVID, it's unavoidable that everyone's going to be much more worried about COVID than they are about sand and topsoil. So once you get over yourself and realize that people have that at home, and you can kind of work with people, then it becomes, you sort of play it to your advantage. And I'm lucky in the fact that I've only been in the industry for sort of just on 10 years, and we haven't had any sort of major setbacks so far.
Touch wood. Come on, fingers crossed.
You don't want to tempt fate around me here. I'm touching everything.
the catalyst of that.
Exactly. You'll be talking to me next year, and everything will have burned down, and then floods and everything.
Don't say that. So, okay, well, let's be positive then. If there's any tips you could give on how to improve the efficiencies or the profits of a business, have you got any ideas? Did you get involved on that side of the business?
Yeah, in terms of the efficiencies, we spend quite a lot of money on on we spend quite a lot of money on compliance and that kind of thing within our haulage fee, and although it does seem like a you're not throwing money away, but we just made a dedicated purge to ensure that we were compliant with all the regulations, and we were kind of at the testing our materials really, really regularly to make sure that they were always compliant, always up to date. And although it costs us a lot of money, that does actually translate down the line to a more profitable business, because you do end up working on higher end projects which have a higher margin. So that sort of thing has always been top of my mind. We've got a Force Gold fleet of trucks, which kind of costs us a lot to keep up, but now that's paying off for itself. So yeah, I mean, that, in that sort of way, it's sort of spend money to make money, which is not always possible for people starting out in the industry to get involved with that kind of thing. But I would just say that the industry is going, and we're involved in haulage and logistics. It's only going one way. It's only getting harder in terms of compliance and regulation, and everyone wants to know where materials come from and their origins, and you've got to be completely covered for that, because there's so many people out there, litigious people out there, that want to take take something from you if you haven't provided the right material. So having a paper trail and making sure you're spending money on testing is the one way to do it.
Very good. Very good. So your role now, what I think on the website is sales director. It sounds like you get involved with a lot more than that.
Yeah, that's sort of an old title. That was when I was purely with Bourne Amenity, but we're as I say, we're a group of 4 businesses, all involved in the sort of same kind of industry. We've got a contracting business that builds sports grounds, so that's sort of symbiotic with the sports turf materials that we supply. My father's here, and we've got 3 other directors. So although the sales thing is what really interests me, because that's kind of the crux of the business, I'm now more involved in that. We run quarries and trucks, and that comes with a whole raft of problems and headaches and compliance, and the running trucks I wouldn't recommend it. I just wouldn't recommend it. It's got a recipe for disaster written all over it, especially with what's going on at the moment with fuel prices and parts and labor. It's a real challenge, but I enjoy that part of it. It's every day is different. And you seem to be firefighting most of the time, but I deal with some great people in the company, and some great stories, and it's really rewarding to be surrounded by people that are all working for essentially my grandfather's brand, and all pulling together. And in general, it's a happy place to work, and everyone is in it together.
Yeah, well, if it was all easy and predictable every day, it'd be quite boring after a while, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
so I think
it would be
a bit more interesting, having all these challenges to overcome, and gives you better job satisfaction, and sense of achievement as well, and pulling together as a team. I think good people, good teams do pull together in times of struggles and crisis, and when things are not quite going right, you find out a lot about yourself and others around you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what we're in at the moment, isn't it? There's nothing more. We thought COVID was a challenge. I think this next period is going to be even more challenging, as everything gets squeezed, and there is just not quite enough to go around, and you're going to have to tighten your belts and make some difficult decisions. But I think when you stuck by people through the thick and the thin, and they're willing to make those sacrifices with you. So it's we'll see what happens over the next few years. But the industry, as we talked about before, is robust. And there is an emphasis on the environment at the moment, which is high on the agenda, which makes work for everybody. So hopefully it's going to be not too much a rough ride as being in something like catering or something. But it's, from all indications, it's going to be tough. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people who have been through recessions in the past, it makes you a bit more resilient, a lot more resilient, bulletproof, and that belief that we've been through it before. We came out the other side, we can do it again.
Absolutely.
Up time, really, isn't it? And pull together as a team. So what parts of being in business have you found personally to be the most rewarding for you?
It's so. I mean, I'm going to sound really corny again, but it is the people.
You just love your people, man.
Yeah, I do love the people. I do. I mean, obviously the staff go without saying. They're all fantastic, and they're a dream to work with most of the time. But just I get to go and I get to meet amazing people in the industry. There are some great designers, contractors, minds out there that far surpass anything I could ever conjure up. And when you are involved in a scheme and it does come together and you go and visit, we are such a minor part in that scheme. We just provide the building blocks, I guess, but you just see that there are some incredibly talented and creative people out there, and that the ability to just go and see these projects and be invited to openings of amazing gardens and roof terraces and that kind of thing is great. And I guess the best part of being in charge of running your own business and being is the freedom you get from that. I can kind of make decisions based on not a whim, I wouldn't say, but based on my experience without having to run it past a committee. And I bounce a lot of ideas off my father, but in general it gives me a lot of freedom to make decisions on behalf of the company that I know will benefit us in the long run. So firstly, the people, as I say, the people in the industry are great. It's a very good industry to be part of. Everyone is extremely friendly and willing to give up their time as well. There's a lot of information sharing that goes. I don't know whether that goes on in other industries, but I have a raft of people that I could call up and they could give you their opinions on things for free. There's a lot of good people in there that just want the industry to thrive rather than will put up barriers for you. So it's a good industry to be in. That's what I've found.
Yeah, brilliant. Everyone wants to help everyone else out, don't they? They're very abundant. Yeah. It's a nice place to be. Everyone does support everyone really well, because sometimes it's a give and take, isn't it? Sometimes you might need their help, they might need your help.
Well, that's the thing. You want to, it is give and take, and if you are open to giving your advice freely, then that will come back to you.
Yeah, definitely does. A good sort of way to live your life generally, really. Yeah. Okay, so if we've got someone listening to this at the moment and they're a little bit stuck in their business or just want to expand, don't know what they need to do, what advice would you give them?
Stick to your guns would be the thing. Just focus on that thing that really got you fired up in the first place. Don't be afraid to make. It's easy enough to say don't be afraid to make mistakes, because mistakes can be costly. But I think if you are passionate, I think you have to revisit whether you're passionate. You've met some people on this podcast, and the thing they all share is passion. If you are in the industry and you are passionate, then it will happen for you. It's just a question of biding your time, I guess, especially at the moment where there's probably not a lot of money or investment around. Just biding your time and doing the small things really well, networking as much as possible, which is why social media is so good, especially something like LinkedIn. You can get access to some people who you would never even be able to, and as I said, in general, you might email someone like Nigel Dunnett or some big designer and they'll come back to you. It might take a bit of time, but they will come back to you. And I think if you're there and you're asking the right questions and you surround yourself with the right sort of people, then it will take a bit of time and it's baby steps. But I think this industry rewards passion, and that's what everyone shares.
Yeah, I think that word comes up time and time again. It's just focused. The whole industry is focused around that word of passion. Passion for what you do, passion for the environment, passion for your staff, passion for doing a great job, for the environment, everything. And it really is. And the people that I found on the podcast, but also people who work for a lot of our clients, with a lot of our clients, their employees, they just love what they do. And it's a different kind of industry to anything else that I've experienced. And I think it's lovely because everyone's passionate. They want to help, they want to improve people and help others, which is a lovely thing.
And I think because the end result is so gratifying.
Yeah.
When you see something that comes into bloom or comes into fruition, it's so mentally satisfying. It's not, I don't know what it's like to be a stockbroker, but I can't imagine they get the same satisfaction at the end of the process as you do if you see a wildflower meadow burst into bloom, or you see a roof garden in full swing in the summer. that must, it gives me a massive, glow. And I must imagine if you're the actual contractor or the designer or the architect or whoever it is, you must look at that and think, wow, that is going to be enjoyed. And everyone loves a garden. Everyone loves, there's no one out there that doesn't love nature. I mean, it is something that's genuinely loved, and it blows people away every day. It blows people away. So if you're even a small part of that has got to be pretty satisfying.
Yeah, genuinely contributing to the environment.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Doing the good things in life, which is not many industries or careers that you can really say that about.
No, exactly. And I would say another thing is get a good night's sleep. That is something I've learned when I was younger. I've got children now, so I'm pretty much done by about 7 o'clock at night. But when I was younger, I used to burn the candle at both ends, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't. If you're trying to build a business and you're working 12, 14 hours a day, which is what you kind of need to do at the start to try and, then you need to be alert, and going to bed at sort of midnight, 1 o'clock just doesn't work. So I'm old before my time. I'm well in bed by 9 p.m. Absolutely done.
Brilliant.
I know it sounds
rock and roll, eh?
But that is actually a good point, that having a good night's sleep does sort you out. And if you don't, it does catch up with you. Yeah. There's nothing worse than being in a meeting and yawning. Yeah. Because someone will see that, and then that doesn't do any favors.
You can just blame it on the kids. They'll just get young kids.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you don't have any.
Well, that sort of brings me on to my last question, really. I think you've sort of touched upon it already. So if you could give 1 or 2 golden nuggets to someone trying to build a business, what would it be? So 1, sleep, stay at the pub, go to bed.
I mean, you sleep, but be prepared to do different things and meet up with people on a whim, and don't say no to. I mean, I'm not saying say yes to everything, but be prepared to go out of your comfort zone. But you have really thick skin as well, because you will get a lot of knockbacks, and you will get people telling you, don't do this, don't do that. And there will be disappointments. And I think when I first started out, I used to take it really personally, and used to really get on my mind. But I think if you're in the industry and you're starting a business, there's a reason you started that business. And I think you won't, the only person that can make you quit is yourself. And I think if you have that thick skin and you have that vision and 8 hours, 9 hours sleep, then that's a winning combination.
Definitely sounds like one to me. Yeah, definitely. I suppose, when you're building a business, one thing to sort of be aware of, and if you're trying to achieve anything in life, whatever it might be careful who you listen to, because there's an expression that I use. It's I have taken it from Brad Sugars, who founded Action Coach, so I won't take the credit for it. Free advice from unsuccessful people can be very expensive.
Yeah.
Careful who
Careful
who you listen to, but go to the
find yourself a mentor, definitely.
Yeah. Wow, Jonathan, that's been amazing. Really enjoyed it. You've been a great guest. Really enjoyed every minute of it. If people want to get in touch with you personally to ask you, pick your brains, or if they want to get in touch with you for the company, for Bourne Amenity, what would be the best way to contact you?
Probably emails. I'm always contactable on email. I'll answer emails. I used to answer emails at 2-3 in the morning, but now I sleep. So
you're halfway through the night then.
If you email Jonathan at bourne.uk.com, then that gets through to me, and I'll always get back to anyone who wants to get in touch.
Wow, that's brilliant. Well, really, really massive thank you for your time.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nick.
It's been brilliant. I'm sure a lot of people will get a lot of great insights and advice.
Good.
And I suppose they just got to make sure they go to bed nice and early.
Exactly. I've got 3 hours and then I'm down.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
I'll chat with you soon. Cheers, Jonathan.
Thanks, Nick. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Grow Landscapers podcast. To get in touch and see how we can help you with your business by emailing nick@nickruddle.com.